What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to this week's second episode of the greatest podcast on turf. I'm Anthony.
I'm Ryan.
And it is currently Wednesday, November 2nd at 6:01 p.m. This video is coming out immediately right after we record this. So we are back with our Week 9 Fantasy Football Stardom Situm video. We are giving you guys about 20 players that we are starting, or that we would be starting, and that we are sitting and will be sitting this week, or would be if we had them. Don't forget to click the like button, click that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And before we get into any fantasy football content, Ryan is going to tell you guys about our sponsor.
Little Italy Pizzeria. They got the best cheesesteaks, the best pizza in all of Delaware. 2 locations, one of those being in Middletown, Delaware, the other one being in Townsend. It is a great family business with great food, great people, great prices. Be sure to come in and check it out. Let them know that the greatest podcast on turf sent you. They will take care of you. Show proof that you're subscribed, that you listen to us, and they will hook you up with an additional discount. With no further ado,
all right,
let's get into the quarterbacks.
I had 2 starting quarterbacks this week. One of them you're going to hate, and one of them you're really going to love.
Unless you took the one that I love.
No, I didn't take the one that you love.
Okay.
Because I had 2.
Okay.
Both of them are better than the guy you said.
Ain't no way.
The first one, real quick, we're just going to touch on it real quick. Trevor Lawrence against the Raiders. It's simple as this. The Raiders suck. Their defense is terrible. And it's simple as that. But on a more safer and serious note, Kirk Cousins is my other starting quarterback this week. Against
Show
Washington.
some respect to Kirk Cousins. Let's go.
Against Washington. Kirk Cousins is finally getting a top...
Oh, boy. Be careful.
Kirk Cousins got himself a top 8 tight end or so, we'll say. In TJ Hawkinson. They traded for him on, what was it, Monday or Tuesday?
I think
it was Tuesday. They traded for him. So it should be similar to like a Christian McCaffrey situation where we saw last week, where they're going to throw him in, build some packages for him. But TJ Hawkinson fits perfect in this Vikings offense, and I think that's really going to mesh with Kirk Cousins well and help the Vikings become more and more dynamic in the passing game. So if you have Kirk Cousins this week, or if he's available in one of your fantasy football leagues and you need a streamer this week because Dak Prescott's on bye this week, go ahead and pick up Kirk Cousins and start him against Washington. Washington's defense has been extremely, extremely bad over the past 2 years, and I don't think that this week against the Vikings is going to be the game where they finally show up. Yes, they are getting Chase Young back, but the Vikings' offensive line has been holding their own this year, especially at tackle positions. Christian Darrisaw is one of the best young tackles in the NFL, and Brian O'Neill has the contract extension, and he's been doing his thing. So if you need to stream a quarterback this week, or because one of the quarterbacks has a tough matchup, or if like Dak Prescott's on, he's only really the only good quarterback on bye this week, go ahead and pick up Kirk Cousins and start him.
My quarterback this week, this is a guy that if he is out there on your waiver wire, absolutely go out there and pick him up. Spend all of the money that you can to go grab him. If you need a quarterback, it is Mr. Justin Fields, the man himself. He has 3 easy games coming up: Miami, Detroit, Atlanta, and his championship game is at Detroit. Something that you want to look out for.
Yeah.
He's playing against a Miami team this week that hasn't been so good defensively. That's probably why they went out and got Bradley Chubb, who is probably going to play, but I doubt he does a whole hell of a lot with it being his first game. And this is the Miami defense that has allowed a lot of rushing yards to the guys of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Justin Fields the last couple weeks has turned into a whole new animal. 60 rushing yards last week against Dallas and a rushing touchdown. And he had 82 rushing yards the week before against New England and a rushing touchdown in a 33-14 blowout. Granted, I said the score for obvious reason. 88 rushing yards the week before that. 47 the week before that. He is on a 4 or 5 game sprint of 17 at the minimum, 26 maximum. It has been beautiful for Mr. Justin Fields. So go out there and pick him up if he's available. Start him the next 3 weeks if you have him, and move on with life.
You forgot that they got Chase Claypool,
who is the same as Bradley Chubb. Not going to do much this week, and Chase Claypool sucks anyway, so take that for how you want it.
Moving on, these 2 Situm quarterbacks are actually playing against each other.
Yep.
The guys that we had, Ryan had both, and I had one.
I kind of struggled finding Situm quarterbacks this week.
I did too. Hold on.
I just locked into the Old Faithful.
Old Faithful? I mean, when Russell Wilson's on bye and Jimmy G, it's kind of hard to find a guy that you can just throw in there. But I went with old reliable Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is coming off of his best fantasy football performance of the season, second best fantasy football performance of the season with 17 points. Now, and with the injury to Cooper Kupp, we don't really know the status of him. I mean, have you heard anything about Cooper Kupp? He got hurt in garbage time last week because he was in the game for whatever reason.
I haven't heard too much about him. I don't know. Let's see if he missed practice or not. He didn't practice Wednesday. I think he had some type of tissue damage in his ankle.
Yeah, that which isn't good. So you got to sit Matt Stafford this week. The Bucs defense has been very inconsistent this year so far, to say the least. But Matt Stafford, his highest fantasy performance this year was against the Atlanta Falcons, and he had 20. And I just can't. I think this is the game that Tampa Bay comes out and just slaughters the Rams. We talked about it on Monday's podcast a little bit. But Matt Stafford is absolutely not a start this week against Tampa Bay, who's, I've been saying it for a couple weeks, but they're pissed off, and I think this is the week.
Personally, I do not think it's the week. This is why I'm sitting Mr. Tom Brady. I think that this is just a shit show for the making. This is a game that I don't really want to watch, and I don't blame anybody for not really trying to watch it. Tom Brady had 17 points last week. It was a decent outing, and then my man is probably going to fall off this week. I mean, he hasn't really put together a few good games yet. I mean, he did decent with Kansas City and Atlanta, but other than that, he's been kind of bad, and I'm not going to really expect that to change too much. Mike Evans popped up on the injury report today.
Got that notification.
So that worries me a little bit. Also, the Rams defense is a defense that you don't really want to mess with either. So if you can, sit Mr. Tom Brady. I would much rather start Justin Fields than Tom Brady this week. I'm not sure that's saying anything at all, but that's where I stand.
Yeah, and moving on to the running back portion of this. For stardom running back, this is a guy who, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I feel as though Ryan and I were extremely high on this offseason, and he really has kind of sucked.
Because Matt LaFleur sucks.
Yeah, and it's A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon, they're playing against the Detroit Lions this week, who are giving up 5 yards a carry and 13 touchdowns to running backs through the first 7 games of the season that they've played in. A.J. Dillon, for the first time in a few weeks, he saw 10-plus touches last week against Washington. He had a... They didn't play... They played Buffalo. Sorry. He put up a measly 7 fantasy points against Buffalo, who's a solid defense. They're playing in Detroit this week, who is the worst defense in football. I look for the Packers to come out here this week, A.J. Dillon, to see 10-plus touches again and finally get back going and put up that similar week to how he did week 1 with 20 points. I think if there's a week for him to finally pop off, it's this week against Detroit, and then after this week, it'll be the week that you try your best to sell high on A.J. Dillon. So if you have A.J. Dillon this week, go ahead and start him against the Detroit Lions, whose defense is among the bottom 1 in the league.
My running back start this week, I just missed Raheem Mostert going up against Chicago. Now, this isn't a luxury start at all. This is a bye week type of start, and there are a few teams on bye week, one of those being the 49ers without Christian McCaffrey. The Cowboys are on bye week, so you're without Zeke or Tony Pollard. So Raheem Mostert going up against the Bears for 2 reasons. One of those being Chase Edmonds is gone, and they brought in Jeff Wilson. Basically, it's like the guy that has been kind of stealing like a little bit of production is gone, so we don't have to worry about him at all. And Jeff Wilson is coming in, which they're going to give him a couple touches, but I think Raheem Mostert's going to be running with a little bit more of an aggression. And I don't think Jeff Wilson does too much because he's just now joining the team. So it should be a Raheem Mostert backfield. Last week he had 14 touches, and I think that he can get, kind of a similar volume going up against the Chicago defense that just allowed Tony Pollard to absolutely destroy him. So.
Yeah, my second sit-em running back of the week. This is a guy who I've kind of been saying a lot.
Start of the week.
I meant start if I said so. Miles Sanders to the Philadelphia Eagles. Tomorrow night's game, they play the Houston Texans in Houston. Miles Sanders has about, if I remember correctly, he's had over 70 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Going up against a Houston Texans defense that is literally worst in the league against the run. Detroit is 3rd worst. I don't know who's 2nd. But Texans are literally 1st. We just saw Derrick Henry have a Derrick Henry game against them. That is not me saying Miles Sanders is going to come out here and rush for over 200 yards. Could I see it
just
happening?
150.
In a world? Yes. But I think that this is another week where we come out here and see Miles Sanders heavily involved in the offense. He's kind of taken over this backfield. We haven't really seen too much of a split like we were seeing at the start of the season with Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott because of how good Miles Sanders is playing. So, against the Texans Thursday night, it's a great matchup. It's amazing game script. The Eagles are 14-point favorites when we're recording this. So, if you have Miles Sanders, or if you are one of the 4% of leagues on Yahoo that does not have him rostered, pick him up and start him. He has a great matchup this week, and he has been great all year for the Eagles.
My next running back start this week, and this is solely if James Conner is out, it is Mr. Eno Benjamin. I know he didn't do too much against Minnesota last week. He really didn't do anything at all, but I do think he bounces back against Seattle because Seattle's defense isn't too good. I know that they just shut down the Giants, but I should just tell you more about the Giants than it does about Seattle because both of them suck. I just don't know how they're doing good.
It's fair.
Those are two teams that are defying all odds, and they will be exposed. One of them this weekend by the Cardinals, by Mr. Eno Benjamin, who is playing against Seattle, who's allowed the 6th most points to running backs, and Mr. Eno Benjamin's fighting for a job because he thinks that he's the starting running back, and I don't blame him because James Conner stays hurt.
James Conner is...
No, he is not anything. Stop being disrespectful.
Okay.
He would still run your ass over one-on-one with bad ribs.
How much is that saying? I've been retired for 4 years. 3 years, 4 years.
He could be retired for 4 years and still run your ass over. Okay. Benjamin is fighting for a job. He is fighting for a solid role. So start him this week against Seattle if Mr. James Conner's out. Even if he's not, you can consider starting him. Also start Khalil Herbert. Why the hell not?
Yeah. Sitting this week, Daryl Henderson of the Rams. Bad game script. Tampa is top 3 in the league against running backs in fantasy football this year.
This one.
Did I?
You kicked the dog.
And somehow Daryl Henderson was outtouched by Ronnie Rivers last week.
That is why you kicked the dog.
Ronnie Rivers doubled Daryl Henderson's touches last week, and it's just a negative game script. If you were like me and you were holding on to Daryl Henderson, I'm sorry. I don't know who the hell Ronnie Rivers is. I picked him up off waivers, so now I have both. And I guess I kicked the dog on this one, but... Yeah, sit Daryl Henderson.
You got both and you don't have the good one. Jesus. First, sit him running back this week. It's Mr. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Clydesdale, going up against Tennessee. He's been kind of scraping by with touchdowns, but I don't really think that happens. Tennessee has allowed the 2nd least points to running backs this season, and I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire's job is like really, really up in the air.
I mean,
they look better with McKinnon, and Pacheco is better at running in the tackles. So what is my man Clyde Edwards-Helaire like truly doing? God knows.
I feel as though that you could have literally just said 2 words and moved on from this explanation to why to say Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay, I'm done. That's fine.
Do you know what the 2 words are?
No.
Isaiah Pacheco. That's literally all you had to, and that's really what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, but I don't even like him. He's not going to be good. It's going to be a 3-headed monster.
Oh, I know. I was reading up on him earlier because I was thinking about trying to trade for Isaiah Pacheco, and I was just like reading and looking. I was like, there's literally a 3-way tie in running backs here.
It's so messy. I just don't like it at all.
But there's so much potential, though. I guess we'll just keep saying him on every week waiver wire until we're right.
Yeah, until his jersey's right there.
Yeah, sign.
I could probably get that on Pristine for like $20. For the culture, why not?
Let's do it. We got money in the account. We got money in the account.
We're going to waste it on Isaiah Pacheco.
Why the hell not? It's our boy. It would mean a lot to us, you know?
And only us.
And that's fine. Because it's a sentimental.
And then we would send him a picture of it and ask him if he wants to come on a pod.
I'm a man of, you know me, I'm a man of, like, sentimental things.
Yeah.
So
we'll send it to Pacheco and be like, yo, we're supporting you. Good? Support us.
Come to Delaware. We'll fly out to KC. What's good?
We'll fly out to KC if you introduce us to Pat.
No. We'll fly out to KC if you sit down with us for an hour and shoot the shits.
We'll drive out there.
Fuck it, let's do it. We're driving to Dubby next week. Yeah. My second sit-em running back this week, this is a guy that kind of surprised me. Brian Robinson Jr. It's literally for the fact that he was somehow out-touched by Antonio Gibson last week. And that's literally it. They're playing against the Vikings, who have a high-powered offense, who are going to put up a lot of points. So it's negative game script. It seems as though that Antonio Gibson has somehow turned into the primary pass-catching running back on this team.
I mean, he is a receiver, so I mean, I guess that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, but
he can't catch, so
exactly. That's why I'm like,
I don't know.
I mean, this whole running back room's a mess. I didn't want any parts of it, and I bought on the Brian Robinson Jr. hype train for some reason, and I'm literally just eating my words. But if you have Brian Robinson this week, sit him. It's just not a safe start. Because at the point where we're at watching the Washington Commanders play football is they kind of are just a running back by committee. If Antonio Gibson's got the hot hand, he's going in the game. If during a shootout, Antonio Gibson's in the game catching screens, running wheels out of the backfield, standing in the end zone wide open. It's just not good for Brian Robinson right now. So for this week, I'm probably going to have to sit Brian Robinson.
My next sit-on running back this week, it might be kicking the dog, but it's Michael Carter. He's playing against Buffalo. That's a bad matchup. And he only had 11 touches last week without Breece Hall and without James Robinson. So now that James Robinson's there, I don't know. I mean,
I just got gunned down. I just got gunned the fuck down.
How?
I'll just finish what you're saying and all.
Sit Michael Carter.
I was going to say start Keenan Allen, but apparently I'm reading up on the injury report, and he said that his hamstring got worse during the bye week.
So, as a baller, you pivot Josh Palmer.
Yes, that's what we're going to do to avoid the gun down.
Or DeAndre Carter. Probably Josh Palmer.
I'm going Josh Palmer this week. Josh Palmer, in the weeks that he has been the receiver 2 on the team, he's got 13, 16, 15 points in a 6-game stretch. He didn't play in the one game. Now, I was going to say start Keenan Allen because they're playing against a Falcons defense that just got torched by DJ Moore and PJ Walker. But the fact that Keenan Allen's hamstring somehow got worse when he had a week off and Mike Williams being out, it's Josh Palmer. The Chargers are a team that can and will throw the ball all over the yard. And Josh Palmer has benefited drastically for that, as we've seen by his fantasy football performances. So going up against the Falcons this week in Atlanta, against a defense that's terrible, with A.J. Terrell that's been hurt, with no secondary presence at all, it's Keenan Allen this week if he plays, and even if Keenan Allen does play, it's Josh Palmer. Because if Keenan Allen plays, he's probably going to get hurt, because he's bitching all year. So Josh Palmer, ladies and gentlemen.
My first receiver stardom this week is Mr. Tyler Boyd against Carolina. He did okay last week against Cleveland in that absolute blowout monstrosity. I think our bet between Packers and Bengals is just whatever team sucks less.
I think it's literally going to come down to, like...
Because they both suck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of us is going to... We're going to end up tying. We're going to have the same record.
I'm just hoping Aaron Rodgers just pulls out Aaron Rodgers. I don't know.
You're begging. You're fucking begging.
You just lost by 20 to the Browns. I don't know who. You just lost by 20 to the 2-5 Browns. I think we're both begging.
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd did okay against the Browns last week, and now you got Carolina, which is a better matchup. They're at home, so that works out too. He's the second receiver in Cincinnati with Mr. Jamar Chase out, so Tyler Boyd should get a shit ton of targets, and he should be, doing pretty good in production.
I had a stardom tight end this week. It's Zach Ertz of the Arizona Cardinals. They are playing at home against the Seattle Seahawks last week, who are first in fantasy football against tight ends on defense. When these teams played last time and the Seahawks won 19-9, Zach Ertz brought in 10 targets. He had 7 receptions for 70 yards. And this week we're really going to see if this Seattle defense, and especially in the secondary, is living up to the hype, because DeAndre Hopkins is seeing 12 to 16 targets a game. I know it's only been 2 games, but he's seeing a lot of targets. So I think that's really going to I think the Seahawks are really going to be keying on D-Hop this week, and that's going to open up the field for the number 2 option in Arizona right now in Zach Ertz. His worst fantasy performance this week was against the Saints, and he had 6 points. But every other week than that, his worst performance has been 11 points. So you got to take that from a tight end in a position that's really so thin outside of the top 2. So if you have Zach Ertz this week, Zach Ertz is probably my start of the week. Like, if I had to pick one guy on my list to pick for the start of the week, it's probably Zach Ertz. That's how confident I am. So start Zach Ertz this week if you have him.
Second receiver this week, I am starting Mr. Devin Duvernay going up against the New Orleans Saints, a defense that has been kind of I know. I saw that you had him on a sit-em. Now what you going to do, homie?
I got gunned down for 2 sit-em receivers. What the
Devin Duvernay, he's gone up against New Orleans, who has allowed pretty good amount of points to receivers, and it's as simple as this. It's a numbers game. Mark Andrews is banged up. Gus Edwards is banged up. Rashad Bateman's banged up. Who the hell's left? Isaiah Likely and Devin Duvernay. If Mark Andrews out, Isaiah Likely finishes in the top 10. And if they're all out, Devin Duvernay finishes in the top 20 to 15, because that man is running, he is catching, he's doing everything for the Baltimore Ravens that he physically can, just like to Lamar Jackson, who is trying his damnedest to do something. You're down bad looking at that one.
Is it that bad?
It's kind of down bad.
I feel
Devin
like it's
Duvernay
kind of worth the say,
is a start this week because he's going to be the offense. Unfortunately, it's Monday night, so you can watch the Monday night game. You actually have a reason.
Yeah.
Personally, I have a reason because I have Kamara, Taysom Hill, and Chris Olave in the same league.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
I know. I've been trying to dump one off for so long. It's just not happening.
What league?
Mine.
Wait, yours is in your dad's?
Yeah.
Oh.
The one in my house.
Oh, well, usually, you say, your dad's. So I just didn't know, what we were talking
That's fine.
about.
Devin Duvernay's a start, though. Why not? Just say whatever. You know what? Say Devin Duvernay. What are your reasons?
My reason to sit Devin Duvernay this week was because what we saw the Saints do last week against the Raiders. They neutralized Devontae Adams. They neutralized Hunter Renfrow, and the Raiders literally couldn't get anything going.
That's a good reason. Stick to your guns.
Right? I think that this Ravens-Saints game, I talked about it more on Best Bets that's dropping tomorrow. I think that this is a game that does not score a lot of points. I think this game is going to be a defensive slugfest. I think this is going to be 2 teams running the ball against each other, not putting up a lot of points. That's why I was saying sit Devin Duvernay. And the next guy in my last and final player of the week that I said to sit, I am down bad for this, and I know this may not be saying much, but I know there is going to be those people that are going to come out here and want to start Kadarius Toney. But I just don't know if that is a smart, safe thing to do this week. Just because it sounds like that he is going to get, he's kind of going to get, he's going to have to work his way into the offense. I wouldn't expect to come out here and Kadarius Toney to, I wouldn't be surprised if Kadarius Toney came out and catches a 70-yard bomb from Patty Mahomes the first play. But I just can't see it happening. I just don't think that that's in the cards this week for the Kansas City Chiefs offense. That's kind of just been rotating through receivers on who's good one week and who's good the next. So, I feel as though just until we see what Kadarius Toney does in this offense through the first week or two, I think that's when we'll be able to get more of a feel on the role that he's going to play in the offense and his how valuable he is in terms of, fantasy football. So, for right now, I'm saying sit Kadarius Toney this week.
My 2 sit-em receivers this week. The first one is Mr. Michael Pittman against New England. He's kicking the dog. I don't really care. Jonathan Taylor is back hurt again. Did something to his hammy again. So who the hell do they have to stop?
Paris Campbell.
And it's going to be the Paris Campbell week because Bill Belichick is not letting Michael Pittman beat him.
No,
the only way you can possibly start Michael Pittman is if you're in a PPR because they're just feeding that man the ball and he ain't doing nothing with it.
Yep.
The next guy, DJ Moore. This is more like a slow your roll type of player here. What?
Kicking the dog a little bit.
He just put up 21 and destroyed
I don't give
Atlanta.
a shit.
And he did 12 the week before. Michael Pittman is your my guy. These are your my guys, and I'm saying sit him. You're saying I'm kicking the dog. So what does that say about you?
It's saying that I got gunned down with my guys this year because who would have thought that Baker sucked and who would have thought that the Colts were just going to fall off the face of the earth and not be worth a goddamn.
I could have told you about the Colts.
I was actually really excited about my guys this year, too. It's a shame.
Yeah, well, both of them are getting set this week. DJ Moore's going up against Cincy, which ain't as easy as Atlanta. So it's like a temper your expectations. I know you got somebody else that you'd rather start, so go ahead and do that. Sit Michael Pittman and DJ Moore.
If I'm going to be honest, I kind of thought about starting DJ Moore this week.
Over who? We're going to see the actual... genuinely asking.
Really have a choice. Romeo Doubs, Darnell Mooney.
Okay. Yes. In that case, yes.
But I'm looking at it like this though. We saw how banged up that.
No.
the Bengals secondary was. They had Dax Hill, their backup safety, playing outside corner. Chidobe Awuzie tore his knee up. He's done for the year. Trey Waynes, I'm pretty sure it was. He was just getting exposed all night. I mean, if you have to start DJ Moore, I wouldn't be as like annoyed about it as like I would in weeks before, just because I mean, on paper, the Bengals secondary is really banged up. But I mean, I see your point on why you're saying to sit him, but I just figured I'd throw my 2 cents in on that one.
That's fair.
And that's going to wrap up this week's Fantasy Football Stardom Sit-em. This video is literally going up right after we record this on Wednesday at 6:26 p.m. So, yeah, like, subscribe. Be sure to go check us out on TikTok and Instagram, and we'll see you guys tomorrow with our best bets.
See ya.
Peace.